Hi people, you join me today. I'm going for a Kawasaki demo day at Millenium Motorcycles in Saint Helens. I'm hoping to ride the Kawasaki Versys 1000, the GT SE model, the full Grand Tourer with the special edition, all the extra bits on it. And I'm currently riding my Tracer 900 GT. I'll be comparing the two models. And well, since I've already done a review of my Tracer, what I'll do is on the way back from the dealers after riding the Kawasaki Versys, I'll tell you the difference that I feel riding my Tracer again after riding the Versys. So it's like a direct comparison. Anybody thinking about whether to buy the Tracer 900 or the Versys 1000, stay tuned. Here we are, Millenium Motorcycles. Okay, we're on the demo ride on the Kawasaki Versys 1000. This is the GT SE model. Straight away when I sat on the bike, it felt a little bit lower than my Tracer GT. So, sat still, it felt more manageable. But immediately I'm trying to move the bike around, I noticed that the foot pegs are in the way whenever I try and put my feet down. It's a different riding position. My knees are in a different riding position than on my Tracer. It's not uncomfortable, it's just different. Probably a slightly more relaxed knee position on this compared to the Tracer. But it's very upright. Now, the top half of my body is a very similar riding position to the Tracer. I'd say the screen looks more substantial and feels a little bit better than the one on the Tracer, but I'm only doing 34 miles an hour. It's a very smooth engine. I can see a gear indicator on the dash. I'm in 4th gear, 34 miles an hour. It's not hunting. I'll go up into 6. Very smooth, it's not struggling at all. It's very smooth, but comparing that to the Tracer GT, it's very similar. I find my bike very smooth. Other people might say otherwise. Quick shifter goes in a lot easier, changing up, compared to mine. The quick shifter works much better on this Versys than it does on my Tracer. On my Tracer it's more of a click, and you can feel a little bit of force that you have to put onto it to use the quick shifter. This one is quite smooth. Oh, handles nicely. A bit vibey there. We're at 4,500 revs. A little bit vibey. Soaks up the bumps nicely. Looking at the dash, it says road. That must be one of the modes on it. We have road mode. third gear, open her up. Yeah, it's a good bike, very comfy. Every time I come to a stop though, those foot pegs are in the way. Feels a little bit bouncy down here on this road, this little country road. Maybe it's because I'm in road mode and the suspension is on hard. Brakes feel okay. No cars coming. I don't know, it didn't seem to pick up any better than my Tracer then. This bike is 118 brake horsepower at 9,000 RPM. And 74 pounds per foot of torque at 7,500 RPM. And it weighs 257 kilo, which is 30 kilo heavier than my Tracer. My Tracer weighs 227 kilo, 113.5 brake horsepower at 10,000 RPM, 64.5 pounds per foot of torque at 9,000 RPM. To me it doesn't really feel much difference. It's probably doesn't feel much difference between the power of these bikes, probably because this one is 30 kilos lighter, heavier, sorry. The Versys is 30 kilos heavier. Clutch action's nice and light. It's only as light as the one of my GT. Every time I put my feet down, those pegs are in the way. Yeah, it takes the bends nice and easy. We're in third, 30 miles an hour then on the roundabout. I do like this quick shifter, it's very smooth going up. Yeah, even when you're going slow and the revs are relatively low, 2,500 revs, I can use the quick shifter going up very smoothly. Does feel a little bit bouncy. It's got to be the suspension, that. Set on the road mode. Yeah, I do like the gear change on this. The quick shifter's lovely. I've heard some people say about the gears feel a little bit spongy, and they do, but it's not disconcerting at all. It was at first when I was trying to go down into first. It doesn't feel, I didn't feel a click changing down at the traffic lights back down into first. I didn't know if it had gone or not. I had to check the dash. Yeah, it takes off nicely. It's got a nice engine sound, but then again so has my Tracer. I'll tell you why somebody might want this over the Tracer is it has a bigger carrying capacity. The Tracer is around about 167 kilo. That's for rider, passenger and luggage, that's everything all in. This one is quite a bit more. I think it's around about 220 kilo carrying capacity. Oh, it goes very nice around these bends, very confidence inspiring. Suspension. Very spongy going down into first. Well, it certainly moves. Very confidence inspiring, this bike. It handles lovely, goes around the bends very nice, very nicely. It's a nice quick shifter, but it's almost as if when it cuts the revs it puts the brakes on as well, and then because obviously you're holding the revs at the same position, the bike takes off again. So it's it's a very smooth gear change mechanically wise. The bike's a little bit jerky. Well, I've enjoyed the ride. Personally, I wouldn't buy one because of where the foot pegs are. It's a tall bike, but not as tall as the Tracer, and because of where the foot pegs are, I find it very difficult to get my feet in the right position. When I'm putting my feet down on the Tracer, you can decide where you want to put your feet. On this, it's like if you want to put them directly underneath you, you can't. You've either got to put them slightly forward or slightly back, and for that reason I wouldn't buy it. The bike takes off very nicely, and when I'm accelerating again though, it's a little bit off-putting that when I'm using the quick shifter going up, it seems to dip and then take off again. I change gear again, it dips and takes off again. On the Tracer it seems a seamless gear change. Very smooth on the Tracer. Although this is a smoother mechanical action. There's the foot pegs again, right in the way when I want to put my feet down at the traffic lights. Yeah, the gear lever isn't very positive. It feels like you're, I don't know, stirring a stick in a bucket of mud. Somebody described changing gear as stepping on a plump rat. It definitely feels like that when you're going down into first gear, when you're trying to find first gear at traffic lights. Poor little Roland. This bike, the GTSE, with the bags and all the gizmos on it, is £15,000, and the Tracer GT is quite a few £1,000s less. If I had my choice again and I'd test ridden them both, I would buy the Tracer. There's that plump rat again, down into first gear. Good God. Yeah, I've got to splay my feet out. Even though this is a lower seat, I have more chance of dropping this than I have my Tracer. I think if you were a taller guy and legroom wasn't a problem, this would be probably would be the better option. I'm only a short guy. I'm 5'8", weigh 150 pounds, and I've got a, I don't know, 29-30 inch inseam. So I'd say if you're a taller guy, you wouldn't struggle with foot placement with the foot pegs being in the way. So being a taller guy, you're probably bound to be heavier. You want to go touring, this would be the better option, I think, because it's got a better weight carrying capacity. You get over really nicely on this. It moved nice down the country lanes with the tight bends and sweeping bends, going at a fair click. Handles really nice, enjoyed it. If it was a taller, heavier rider, which bike would I choose? I'll let you know shortly when I get back on the Tracer for the ride home. So straight away jumping back on my Tracer, it feels so much lighter, much more flickable, feels a much smaller bike. Well, it is, it's 30 kilo less than the Versys, and it's a smaller engine. I can get my feet down much more easily on this because the pegs are slightly backwards, slightly to the rear. Yeah, for me this Tracer feels a much more manageable size. The bars feel a little narrower on this one, and there's a lot less hardware up front there. There's more screen, more fairing on the Kawasaki. Well, the quick shifter is much better on this one. The quick shifter is much better changing up, much more positive and much more fluid than it is on the Kawasaki Versys. It just feels a lot lighter, a lot more flickable and a lot more fun to me. So I think if you're a smaller guy like me, 5'8", 65 kilo, then you may prefer this bike. It's much lighter, easy to throw around. The power feels very similar to me. I can't really discern any difference in the power, although this feels much more fun and a little bit more torquey, even though it's down on torque compared to the Versys. If you're a taller, heavier guy, the foot peg placement won't be a problem for you, and you've much more range for taking passengers and more camping gear if you wanted to go away, or more touring gear on the Versys.